خلينا نبدأ.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Training teams in HR department welcomes you in this session. Today we have Mrs. Ali Al Hashmiya. She will going to talk about the gap between the practice and the outcomes in QA practice. Please, you can start, Alia.
Thank you very much, Fakhriyan. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying their day so far. I'm really very honored to have this number. I was not expecting this number, so hopefully you will enjoy. I mean, for such a topic, I know it's not really a very interesting topic for most of us, but hopefully we can have a very fruitful session. I'm not here to give you information. I'm here to raise concern and to discuss these kinds of topics because we are all kind of part of it. As long as we are part of the university, then we are part of it. So thank you very much again. Just before we start, I would really appreciate if you can use the chat box whenever you want. And I even appreciate it more if you have any concerns, any comment, any kind of thought. Remember, there are always no wrong or right answers here. Just raising kind of these thoughts and concerns. You can always speak up. Okay, so the session that I'm presenting today is about gaps between quality assurance practice and outcomes. I'm not presenting the session from the quality assurance department perspective, but it's actually to the opposite, sort of from an academic perspective to other academic perspective. Why? Because we need to make sure that this will work well for all of us. So I really thank the HR initiative for this training session. It was part of sharing knowledge. And to be honest with you, this is kind of a very small part of my study. And when I started reading about quality assurance system for my study, I thought that sharing these pieces of information might change a little bit of our attitude, behavior toward the quality assurance. So let's see. I divided the session into two parts, or let's say that two kind of objectives. The first one is a kind of a very background information, or let's say the foundation. I think most of you, I believe that most of you have the foundation of what is quality, why is it assured, and what are the outcomes of quality assurance in higher education, and what are the challenges, and why do we have challenges? And again, remember, I'm talking from an academic perspective. The next part of the session I'd like to discuss with you is there a gap, or are there gaps, and why? Why do we have gaps between the quality assurance outcomes and the practice? If there is one, maybe there is no gap. I don't know. And if we really have gaps, do we have these gaps in the outcomes of quality assurance? I mean, when I say the outcomes of quality assurance, we're talking about the outcomes of quality assurance are not achievable, are not attainable, they are not really very practical, they are not really realistic for higher education, or the opposite. Actually, they are attainable, they are practical, they are achievable, but maybe there's a problem with the practice within universities. And as academics, part of these universities, maybe we hold kind of a little bit responsibility for the gaps. We will discuss that later. And the last thing I'd like to discuss with you, what is next? Why is it very important to talk about what is next? Because we're part of this institution. We might be users, we might be stakeholders, and we will be in the future. And definitely when it comes to when they talk always about research, they talk about constraints and variables. So when it comes to quality assurance, definitely quality assurance will be one of the constraints. And the variables is how we deal with quality assurance. Okay, I hope that the objectives are really very clear and very smooth. Now, it's my very first simple question. When you hear the word equality, what comes to your mind? I really appreciate it if you can use the chat box very quickly. Just whatever comes to your mind, I'd like to know. When you hear the word quality, not the quality assurance, quality, what comes to your mind? Anyone?
Chat box is not there.
There is no chat. There is no chat box.
There is no chat box not activated in the meeting?
No, madam,
Yes,
there's no
no
chat
chat
box here.
box.
Okay. Okay, you can just give me some kind of really very oral answers here. Might be even much more interesting. What comes to your mind when we talk about quality in general?
The standard procedures that are followed for the betterment of the working culture.
Okay.
Or the
Standards,
quality.
procedures.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Quality of something, anything. It doesn't have to be the quality of higher education at the beginning. It might be a quality of product, service, outside. What is equality? That this is a quality product, or this is a quality service, or this is a quality course book. What do you associate it with? Okay. Your voice is not very clear, Dr. Arshad. Okay, excellence and standards. Thank you very much. I got you. Yes. Thank you. Yes, I mean, one of the problem, probably this was the problem of found in the literature in general when it comes to the research of quality assurance, that academics or higher education staff, they have kind of different definition of quality from the real concept of equality in higher education. So to understand equality and then quality assurance in higher education, I think it's really very important to understand, and I know that this is not really very new for you, that the concept of quality in higher education started with the quality of product industry. After that, it moves to the service industry, and then higher education being one of the service industry because they provide the service of higher education. The quality of service industry was moved to higher education, and it's really very important. And if one of you is really very interested to understand how quality assurance was formalized, why do we have quality assurance agencies, why do we have quality assurance entities, bodies, and kind of these bridges systems of quality assurance, it's very important to understand the idea of neoliberalism in higher education and how did it start. Why? Because once you understand that, actually it makes it really very logical to have quality assurance systems in every university. So the idea of neoliberalism, and I believe that lots of you have more information about neoliberalism in higher education than me. But it's this idea that started in the US to make sure that the government has a closer look to public sector in general. And part of the public sector is higher education. So the approach forces university to change their structure, management, and then, and probably this is something familiar with the quality assurance people, that we have the corporate culture in higher education. So once we have quality assurance in higher education, you need to make sure that there is a corporate culture kind of will be enforced through systems, procedures, and a process. And the idea of quality assurance again emphasizes the idea of accountability. And then we have the idea of quantifiable output measures. So all of these ideas, all of these concepts and ideas and thoughts were kind of the foundation of having formal system of quality assurance, not only in the region, but all over the world. Okay, so what is equality in general? If we say that higher education is part of the service industry, actually when it started in the service industry, there was nothing about excellence when it comes to quality assurance. And why I'm saying that? Because this is one of the problems that quality assurance entities or offices usually have a conflict with academics in general when they talk about quality assurance, because quality with academics is about excellence. Well, actually, in reality, when it comes to reality, quality assurance is not about excellence. It's about conformance to requirement. Okay. It's about conformance to requirements. It's about meeting and exceeding customer specification, and it's about continuous improvement and fit for purpose. Now, some of us might argue that when it comes to exceeding customers' expectation, we can argue that there is some of excellence here, and then this kind of continuous improvement. But when it started, it was kind of really very specific. Okay, and then what is the rationale? What do you think? Why do we have quality assurance in higher education institution? Anyone has any idea? And you can use your microphone. Why do we have quality assurance system in
To get
higher
accreditation.
For accreditation, okay. Why did we need accreditation from the beginning? Why there was a need for accreditation? What was the rationale behind that?
To compete with other universities, basically, like for a brand.
To compete with other universities. We're talking about these kinds of competition in higher education. Excellent. What else?
Madam, to meet the vision and motto of our motto and goals of our institute and our UTAS.
Oh, I didn't quite hear that. I'm not really very sure if. Would you please repeat?
Hello, ma'am. Can you listen to me? Can you hear me? To meet the vision, mission, and goals of the institute, we have a goal. Okay. We have to achieve it, and we have to self-evaluate whether we have reached it or what else can be done for the improvement.
And this is very true, but this is where it comes to the rationale of the quality assurance system applied at the university. But the concept in general, why from the beginning the government invested in creating quality assurance agencies? Is there a rationale for that? What comes to your mind?
To find where do we stand exactly in terms of quality.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
To go with the flow, with the trend, with the universal trend, basically.
Again, this is kind of an argument. Very excellent. This is an argument, especially in some kind of context. They say that, I mean, it's a concept started and they call it about co-setting, which is the US and the UK, and then it was transferred to this region. But actually, in the literature, the rationale is very logical. And if we look at the rationale, it says that if we took kind of any higher education system or any higher education context, let's talk about, for example, Oman as an example. I mean, we talk about the expansion in number of higher education institutions. Expansion in number of higher education institutions and the students, okay, need to be observed. I mean, we have this, again, this idea of globalization. So higher education was project to the open market. We have this concept of the internationalization of higher education. And I believe that lots of you now are familiar with the concept of internationalization of higher education and how complex it becomes in reviewing every aspect of any higher education institution. We have new modes of delivery. We have multiple specialization. We have minor specialization. We have low, high, average, acceptable rate of unemployment. We have lots of new private higher education institution with lots of stakeholders, different academic affiliation. And we have public demands, and I'm talking about here from like the state or the government rationale. public demand for higher education and for universities to be legitimate, to make sure that higher education will still be legitimate, that we have globalization, we have internalization, we have lots of pages, we have changes. So governments around the world feel that like, okay, we need to make sure with the expansion, we control it. How do we control it? We need to measure it, we need to observe it. And in some of the literature, they call it that the inspectional mood of the government or of the state, to make sure that all of these aspects, like globalization, the new programs will be delivered and delivered really with a certain quality, which can be monitored and then justified to the public as well. So the rationale is really, really very logical, and I think it works very well in any setting. So once you want to make sure that you want to regulate the expansion, you need to make sure that you will observe it, you will measure it, and you will guard it as well. And again, I want to emphasize that I'm not only talking about the context of Oman. Oman is part of this. I mean, this presentation is from literature from Spain, from Japan, from Africa, from US, from UK. So all of them, which is really very interesting, we have the same concerns when it comes to QA. Now, if we have these kinds of rationale, and it seems like very genuine rationale, why quality assurance is problematic, or why it sounds like is it problematic? Any kind of thoughts before we start? Or the question I find the very objective question, is it problematic, you think, that quality assurance in the context of universities?
Because
yes,
there is
no,
always
maybe?
a gap. There is always a gap between practice and theory. Yeah? This is the title of this lecture.
Why do we have the gap? This is very interesting. Why do we have this gap? Why do you think? Why do you think that we have the gap in quality assurance?
I think still we didn't reach the reason.
I can't really hear that.
So
it's
all
not
of
really
them,
very
they
clear.
are here because of that. Actually, I think the reason is not clear until now. That's why, mashallah, a large number of participants today is more than 50 to know what the reasons behind this.
Okay, very good. I mean, this is very interesting. It's exactly the right answer. This is why we have this discussion, and I think this is why we should have more discussion about it. It's not really very clear, and it's not only not very clear here why quality assurance is problematic. And
I also second Alia, and I think another reason maybe is that the way it's implemented in higher education institutes, because the weight it gives to the staff is or seems to be more than it's expected, knowing that staff do have some other main duties related to teaching, evaluation and assessment. And the way it's implemented, like let's say in our context, seems at to some extent a bit complicated at some stage.
All valid concerns. I have to say, all valid concerns. Everything that you mentioned is very true. Okay, but again, I mean, I want to show you, why do I have this kind of session? Because I want to show you that if we have the struggle, because the struggle is real and is not only contextual. It's not only in Oman, it's not only in this university, it's the concept of quality assurance in general that we need to understand, we need really to identify these gaps, and we need to start working toward bridging the gaps. It's not really a very easy mission. Okay, why I'm saying that is it's very problematic all over the world, because there are certain quality assurance program or quality frameworks that they call that was or were implemented in the past, and are implemented now, and definitely some will be designed and implemented in the future, because they're trying really to fit this concept of the quality service and the quality of the product into the quality of the higher education. So there are efforts, they've been efforts since the beginning of this kind of concept of quality assuring universities until now. So we are not alone. Everyone is working. Everyone is really trying very hard to make sure that this system will work. And where is the problem? Why it's not really very working? Just to show you, I mean, the first system that was proposed to higher education was in 1988. We're talking about 1988, the first quality assurance system even was not really formalized, but they were talking about we need to make sure that we need to assure quality in higher education. And the concept, and when I'm talking about the conceptualization, is the understanding of equality at that time. Garvin proposed that we need to make sure if we want to really measure assure quality in higher education, we need to make sure that quality is quantifiable. And I think we understand this concept. Quality, we can't define it, but we have to experience. Okay, a product satisfies its purpose, meeting users' needs, and we need to link it to predefined products and services. Now, we can relate to some of these ideas here, some of these concepts here. However, this this framework was criticized, was rejected, because there are lots of problems with it. Who are the users of higher education? I mean, until now, it seems like the users of higher education are growing. Okay, who are the, what are the products of higher education, if we're talking about the products? Because previously, we're talking about students. Knowledge was the product of higher education. Now, it's completely different, because you have different stakeholders and you have different different users of higher education. We have this kind of link with the industry that becomes either a user or a stakeholder. So it was completely, this framework was rejected. And I want to show you that this was an effort trying to make sure that, okay, we need to measure higher education, but we need to find a proper way to do it. Another example or another framework is Harvey and Green, and I wanted to highlight Harvey and Green because Harvey and Green model or framework is really very popular in higher education, and I think lots of people who work in quality assurance probably can relate to Harvey and Green. Harvey and Green, when they proposed their framework in 1993, and by the way, this framework is not really very new. It's not really very new. It was used before in the service industry. However, they amended a little bit to suit some of the universities or some higher education system that exist at that time, especially in the UK. So they say that, okay, we need to measure quality. Quality can be exceptional. Quality can be perfect. So whatever product, service you're talking about has to be exceptional, perfect. It has to be fit for purpose, it has to be value for money, and as well, it has to be transformative. There are some other frameworks that developed after Harvey and Green, but for a reason, I don't know why, Harvey and Green is still really very popular in the literature. Now, this idea of exceptional and perfection, where I think created, and I might be mistaken here, because there are some very elite universities around the world. It's either, especially when we talk about core countries like US, we have Harvard. How can you compare Harvard to a new university? So we have this idea of exceptional perfection to meet the standards of equality in these universities or satisfy the quality in these contexts. So my kind of goal to show you that there have been frameworks for a while to fit in the concepts of quality in higher education, because it is hard, it is really complex, and at the same time, people are working really very hard to make sure that this system will work. I want you to reflect a little bit, and I want you to tell me the practice now of quality assurance in our context or in any context that you worked in before, whether here in Oman or outside Oman. How do we practice quality assurance based on Harvey and Gray? Is it like quality is exceptional, perfection, fit for purpose, value for money? Or do you think there is an aspect of the transformative and enhancement way of quality? Just a kind of, there's nothing, there is no, again, wrong or right answer here. Just we're trying to to think critically about it, to understand it really very well. So the practice of the audit and the summative assessment of the ISA, for example, does it conceptualize quality as a perfect concept, exceptional concept, or only fit for purpose, value for money, and maybe transformative? What do you think? And again, there is nothing written directly or indirectly about that. Just to give you kind of this comfort that there is no wrong or correct answer about that. What do you think? Huh? Anyone?
I feel none of the above, like mostly archiving and collecting evidences here, like they are just collecting evidences and we don't know why they are doing this, basically.
Okay, very good, very good. I mean, when you say that, and as an academic, that we don't know why, this again raises lots of a question, why we don't know? And this is where the gap is. Anyone else?
Hi, Alia.
Yes.
First, I think for me, I feel that quality in higher education is seeking perfection.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that transformative, I believe.
Okay.
But I don't know, the frameworks, I think one part of the problem in quality assurance is that it started as it's a customer corporate basis, and these models were implemented in higher education. So it's like, you bring a model that works perfectly for, business and corporates and the quality of, customer satisfaction and happiness. And then you bring it here and we feel scattered because, as you said, in higher education, the focus is not only the customer. Who's the customer? Who's the client? Is it the student? Is it the academic staff? We have different stakeholders. So I believe, the core issue is that probably we need maybe because you research on that, okay, we need a true, genuine, pure framework for higher education. That's something that we adopted and or started somewhere else, So, and that's why I think there is a gap. But for now, I see that it's seeking perfection. It's very demanding, seeking perfection, and it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be this way. Yeah.
It's very interesting, Rahma. Thank you very much for your comment. It's very interesting. When academics, and I think you had kind of you worked with the quality assurance for a long time. I mean, this idea is it really perfect, or what we're doing is only fitting for purpose? I mean, there is always this discussion, which is really, really very interesting. Anyone else? Okay.
Can we message somewhere?
Yes, please.
Can we send a message? There is a chat box somewhere.
Okay, let me see.
Because
what
I feel
can never
in
be perfect.
I don't know why the chat box is not activated. I don't know why.
Okay. So
for
I
one reason.
I think we need to accept the fact. I think we need to accept the fact that it shouldn't be perfect, and it's not meant. Quality assurance is not meant to be perfect, right? So, it should be there to fit, as you said, maybe to fit the purpose or to, other purposes, but not to be perfect, and it shouldn't be.
Well,
because from the gaps we learn to evaluate ourselves and we improve. If it's perfect, then how would the cycle, the improvement cycle would go? The wheel will stop if it's meant to be perfect.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, this is what I'm after actually. The system has never been meant to be perfect. And this is, it seems like there is a kind of, yes, Dr. Irshad, please go ahead. Seems like you want to say something, but your voice is not really very clear.
Now
so
it's clear?
I'm trying really very hard to listen to you.
Is it clear now?
It's clearer, yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I have a little thought on this model, because I feel everybody is touching. Can you remove this, the slides?
Yes,
There's something
yes,
on.
Please.
Yeah. I think that every institute is trying to catch up with this domain. Either they want to do exceptionally well, or they want to create a perfection, or they are for the fit for the purpose. So they're doing it, but nobody is perfect for this kind of model. So if, for example, the privatization, they do very well in all those aspects, but not particularly the public institutes. I think they're lacking this one. That's my thought on this case.
So it's not the system. So let's agree, it's not the system.
Yes.
It's not the system. So it seems like the system is, we have something in the system which is the best that could be presented to higher education. But maybe, I'm not really very sure somebody is speaking, it's not really very clear. If somebody is speaking, it's not really very clear. Anyone is speaking? Okay, somebody is in the lobby. Okay. Anyway, because I know that you're really very busy, I don't want to take lots of time. So according to the literature, again, we don't here only talk about higher education in Oman, we're talking about higher education all over the world. Seems like higher education system, agencies, bodies, entities, whatever you call it, enforces only fitness for purpose and value for money conceptualization. So this idea of, I think, excellence, perfection, and exceptional was not meant to be part of the system because of lots of reasons we don't have really time to discuss here. But it's really very important that to understand that the system, if we understand this, it will be really very easy for us to deal with it and to help, and I say that to help to bridge the gap between us as academics, as a staff, or users and stakeholders of the systems and practice and the system. Why they're saying this in the literature? Because it seems like there is a kind of power from the government to control the to control whatever comes of products and services from higher education. Again, for the reason that we mentioned before. And there is this idea of restricted funding. And that's why the idea of value for money is really, really very important. Once we understand this, we can really justify lots of action. Quality assurance has taken or will be taken in the future, because all over the world, we're talking about from 1980s, before even any institution, any higher education institution in Oman started, talking that the funding to higher education has declined. To make sure that higher education will be financially sustainable and at the same time, they will be able to govern themselves within the fund the governments give them. So this idea that you need to be, as an institution, you will need to be financially independent. So the value for money concept was really enforced to higher education. Whether it's fully enforced now in Oman, it's not really very clear, because it's very obvious that the government still invests a lot in higher education in the country. Okay, now I want to ask again this kind of a question. Let's think positively. Let's forget about the gaps for a minute. And I'd like you to concentrate on the positive sides of quality assurance system or the quality assurance process or the quality assurance procedures that implemented in the past are implemented now, what could be the positive outcomes of these systems? What do you think? Can you see any positive outcomes of the quality assurance systems implemented in universities around the world or implemented in universities here? Anyone? Nothing positive about quality assurance? We definitely have some quality assurance people here. I think they are. I think we just, because we have the kind of very complex relationship as academic with higher education, we can't think of the positive side of it. But there are some results, and I would say that very supported by literature and studies, that quality assurance has definitely benefited higher education. Anyone can think of some benefits, some of positive impacts, outcomes of quality assurance in higher education, in our universities? Be a little bit patient, I'll wait. Anyone?
Okay, it might be benchmarked.
It might be what? Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Benchmarked.
Okay, benchmarking. So, yes, benchmarking.
Yeah.
What else? Anything? Only benchmarking? I mean, for some teacher, benchmarking is not really very positive. Competing, yes, Dr. Irshad, thank you very much. Competing, I mean, this idea of competition between universities to bring the best out of them for, let's name them customers who are students. So definitely this was something positive for universities. I'll give you time because I really would like to end up this session with something not only talking about the challenges and that's it. We need to understand that there are some positive impacts of higher education that we need to keep, we need to support, we need to encourage. And there are definitely some of the challenges that we need to address, or there are some gaps that we need to bridge. Thank you very much, Dr. Irshad. Definitely financial stability. Yes, Rahma, go ahead.
I think one of the good benefits of quality assurance is that in some way it's a learning experience, a learning process. So we know why we're doing what we're doing. We also get to self-evaluate. We learn about the gaps, and this will help us improve. And I think this should be the sole purpose of quality assurance, is that we evaluate ourselves and then we also work on the process and improving our systems. And we know that there is a system, we learn about the system. It could be overlooked. We could be, just, ignoring or, but we know that for everything there is a system. But also it's for us to know about the gaps that we have, either from the system or from us as teachers or students, and we all help and contribute to improve. So that's one good benefit of it,
Very true, very true. Thank you very much, Rahma. Anyone else? Okay.
Self-evaluation of the goals that we have set.
Okay.
Just find out whether we have achieved the goals.
Definitely the concept evaluation, something really very positive. Yes.
This is the positive impact, because once we know where we stand, we set our objectives, and at the end we self-evaluate, and we are in a position to find out where we are lacking, what are the gaps. So the quality assurance will help in doing this. So this is one of the positive things, and I think most of the universities use this QA to self-evaluate them at the end of the academic year, or maybe in one cycle, something like that.
Regardless whether whether it is effective or not effective. But the concept of evaluation is something really, really very essential for any institution, or even for every individual in higher education institution, every users, I would say, every stakeholders in higher education. Now, are the results of the evaluation are really incorporated well, used well, reflected, thought about? This is something else, but we need to make sure that the practice, there is a practice which is really very positive about quality assurance. Anyway, from the literature in general, I'm talking about something really very general for overall higher education. Now, this is from the literature. They talk about quality assurance actually as a system enhances the practice of universities and their accountability to the public, which is something that we didn't have before. So now, as institution, we are accountable to the public. Definitely, this is something Dr. Irshad mentioned. It increases universities' competition, responsiveness. We're talking about how do you respond to industry, your students, the needs, all of this kinds of concept of responsiveness to the stakeholders, to the users, and the rate of innovation. We can argue, disagree or agree against that, at least as concepts, they are there. We're talking about level of structural transparency in higher education. Again, we can disagree or agree, but it's there. The level of transparency is there. I mean, we're talking about published reports of higher education institution and higher education and quality assurance agencies. I mean, Oman is part of the process, which is part of the transparency of higher education. It enhances stakeholders' confidence. And we talk about stakeholders' confidence when you have kind of this reputation, a transparent higher education institution, my confidence to take decision to join you, or my confidence to take decision to invest in you, or my decision to have connection with you as an industry. And so that will help me as a stakeholder to take decision about particular higher education institution. Again, something really, really very important, and we need always to highlight, again, whether we agree with the practice or we disagree with it, but we need to agree that the gathering and dissemination of the mass information in terms of higher education statistics, prospects, and for specific documents, all of these documents, it might sound that we don't know what is the rationale behind them, but there is huge data as a result of a quality assurance information. Are they used well? Not well? This is something we can discuss. But in general, the kind of introducing quality assurance to higher education was not all challenges and kind of struggle and conflicts. There are definitely some benefits that states, governments around the world, ministries of higher education benefited from introducing these kinds of high quality assurance agencies, or developing and promoting, funding these these quality assurance agencies. Now, we have all this positive, and I think lots of you are eager to talk about the challenges. Then, if we have these positive impacts of a quality assurance, why aren't we satisfied? Why aren't we happy as academics or as staff with the quality assurance? And I think lots of you have lots of things to say. I'll just summarize whatever that you're going to say, but I'll give you the floor to express why aren't we satisfied with the data for quality assurance, with the documentation of quality assurance, with, let's call it, the responsiveness, the competition, the transparency. Why aren't we satisfied or happy, or we have problems with this as academics or as staff in higher education institution? What is the problem? Why aren't we satisfied? Anyone? What is the problem with us? Seems like it's a very genuine system. It works well.
Because we feel it is like a burden, actually, as some of us like said, because we are like overwhelmed with a lot of tasks, and then it comes this, and like it's more of a burden collecting. Collecting evidences, and some of these evidences I don't feel it's like it's important to be collected. Like I feel the quality here is just collecting evidences. This is what I feel. Maybe like I'm not aware, or there is no there's a gap between practice and theory, to be frank, between application and what should be done.
I mean, this is one of the main concerns academics always mention in every kind of study about quality assurance, this kind of burden of documentation. Okay, what else? Anything, anyone else? Thank you very much, Dr. Irshad. Yes, it's something for the future. You're saying it's something for the future, not for now. So we don't probably expect the improvement to happen now. So we're doing all these different, is this point? Is this your point? So we're not doing really the, let me see, I think maybe I can read the chat here. No, I don't know. Or in the private, yeah. I think it can't never be future sustainability. Why it can't be for now? It's a very, very good question. Why do we always work for future sustainability? We're not talking about the current sustainability of higher education. This is again one of the concerns academics have, or any staff who work, because not only academics do documentation, also people in HR, maybe lots of documentation more than us, people in IT, because every aspect of the university is quality assured. Challenges, this is your floor. If we have some people from quality assurance to raise your concerns, because maybe there are some concerns that we have and they can be addressed immediately. Maybe there's something we don't understand. That's why we have these kind of concerns. Okay, because we're running out of time. I'll just again summarize for you. I mean, whatever concerns that you have, these are not only your concerns. These are the concerns of all staff involved in higher education institutions. So the challenges for quality assurance, the problem now, it seems like quality assurance becomes a new industry in higher education. So we have higher education, okay, and we have quality assurance as a new industry with its roles, rules, and culture. And every day it becomes more formalized. I'm going to say formalized because there is a department, there is an entity, and there is a whole section. There are lots of people who will be offloaded because they need to work on quality assurance. So every single year, it seems like it's formalized even more. We need to understand why. Again, this idea, we hope that we talk about the enhancement for the future. This is an idea Dr. Irshad talked about it, but maybe there is an overemphasis on accountability. That's why you need, I mean, this idea of evidence. That's why we have accountability. So there is overemphasis on accountability. And again, the process becomes very rigorous. So there is no room for flexibility. And what is the problem with that? When there is no room for flexibility, some of the studies mention that. That's why we have lots of managers. So we have vice chancellor as strategic leaders, and then we have academic managers, and we have assistant managers. So all of this kind of hierarchy is to make sure that no mistakes will happen in the process. And mistakes seems not to be handled really very well. So this kind of, there is no room for a flexibility, which I think makes it really very hard for the idea of innovation and the idea of excellence to be part of the system. Again, when I say this, I might be really wrong and mistaken. So part of the process when it comes, so it's very good that we have data, it's very good that we can generate information, but until now, and this is, and I think the responsibility for the quality assurance people is to show us, because we can't see that there is any evidence to see that the information or the data led to better decision in establishing a good market. When I say a good market, is it a good market for our students or a good market to attract more students? Maybe to generate profits. And this was kind of comes from a study done in Japan. In Japan, they concluded that the higher education system or the quality assurance system in Japan, until now, there's little evidence to talk about the efficiency of data collected from the quality assurance. So if we believe and we spend time really collecting this data, we need to show that we take decision, informative decision based on this data. So we need to convince other stakeholders that we take these decisions for purpose. Another thing, another kind of challenges was which I wanted to really relate to the idea of concept of teaching and learning is that, and this is exactly my study, talking about the concept of the changing of the quality of teaching and learning, the redefinition, which creates conflicts between academics and university management. So we don't understand, we are plain that we don't understand lots of things happening in quality assurance. And we have the university management who have their own understanding of the quality assurance. And that really changed the academic even contracts, which is in number 2. So the understanding of the quality assurance system enforces university to even change the academic roles, academic expectation, academic even the reward system, because the reward system in most universities now focus on research more than teaching, because very simply because you can't count how many papers that you publish, but you can't really count this idea of excellency in research. So the core thing of university, which is to discuss knowledge and to create knowledge and this kind of knowledge economy, was not really very highlighted in higher education, because it was really very hard to quantify teaching. So excellence in teaching becomes really very hard for academic people, for academic staff. Okay, so now we have gaps. We have clear objectives. We have clear rationale. We have very genuine systems. My question is, why are there gaps? Why do we have gaps between, we have, seems like challenges are really very clear. Okay, rationale is really very clear. Outcomes or intended outcomes of a quality assurance are really very clear. Then why are we having gaps then? Anyone would like to say something really very quickly, because we're running out of time? Why do we have gaps? Why do we think? Who to blame? And I think this is who to blame. This is the most important question.
I think because we don't tailor or customize like this standard according to our needs. We just take it, copy and paste, and try to apply it. And it's not always the case. We should customize it, tailor it to our need, not just take a ready-made standard and try to apply it.
So is it part of our responsibility? Is it part of the problem that like we as academics or as staff in higher education, we don't really deal with the process really very well?
I'm not sure who to blame, to be frank, but I think there is there is a gap. There is a gap. Yes, there is a gap between practice, what we should do, and what we are doing. We shouldn't just take whatever other universities are doing and try to implement it. Every country, every institution is unique. I feel we shouldn't just benchmark with others. Like we should benchmark with ourselves. Like why we consider other institutions are better than us and take them as a standard. We should all be unique, and we should be confident that our institution is good. I mean, the idea of comparing. I hate the idea of comparing. Comparison is the thief of joy in every aspect of life, and this is part of it.
Very, very true. Thank you very much, Abdullah. Really very kind of deep thoughts about the process. But that's why we always stop at this stage, is that we know that there are gaps, we know that there are problems. Who to blame, we don't know, and the process continues. So why do we have gaps? 1 more minute, and then I'll just go very quickly the last 2 slides. Okay.
Okay, Mrs. Alia, we can take 20 minutes more if there is any discussion.
Okay.
If any more discussion, we can add 20 minutes more.
Okay, just I need 10 minutes for that, and then I'll end the session. Thank you very much. Okay, so what are there gaps? I mean, from my point of view, from my position, I think it's very hard. It's very hard. We can't always blame the HR system. It's very easy to blame the HR system, but it's not only. No, sorry, not the HR system. It's the quality assurance system, or the quality assurance department, or the quality assurance process. It's like there is a gap, and there is a growing gap between academics, university management concerning practice and outcomes. And it's growing, and this is my problem, that the gap is growing. And another gap is, I think, which is really very important, is in understanding higher education staff perceptions or attitude to quality assurance. So nobody stops and try to understand why, for example, Rahma, Abdullah, Isra, Alia, whatever, they have these kinds of perceptions, or they have maybe they have different understanding of equality. Maybe they have, why do they deal with behave to quality assurance sessions, to quality assurance documentation like that. So understanding the quality assurance, understanding from their part and from our part as well. Okay, we never question, have we ever asked why and we receive an answer? Sometimes we don't do it, and we do it, and we just do it for the sake of doing it. So we don't ask the question why, or we don't know who to ask. Another thing is that I think it's our understanding, and at the same time, we don't project them as challenges. We talk about these challenges as concerns. It's not as the kind of difficulties really hindering us from doing our tasks. And we have discussions about quality assurance, but we never, for example, presented a paper. So, okay, this is data. It shows that this department has this problem with this process or outcome, and this outcome or this is not attainable. Okay, so this kind of identifying what are really the challenges in every department or with every kind of specialization is must, and I think I might be mistaken here, but this is kind of where we need academics. We need really people who are in the field to communicate these kinds of things and communicate them really very well. And I will talk about that in a minute. So I don't want us to agree on this, but we have practice, we have outcomes. I'll just say my very personal opinion. I might be wrong. I might change my idea after 2 years, but I think for now, at least, the outcomes of quality assurance are things that we need to make sure that we will support, we encourage, because they're logical for any higher education institutions. So I believe, and then this is something that probably I found in the literature, that the gaps are mainly in the practice. They are not in the outcomes. So we don't have a problem with the outcomes of quality assurance, but we have a problem with the process, procedures, practice, and the internal implemented system of quality assurance. So I'm saying maybe the practice, but maybe I'm wrong. One of the problem with the practice, I would say, it's mechanical. It's always mechanical from both parties, I would say, from the implementer and from the the people who implement it, from users. So the way we deal with the forms, for example, the way we deal with the evaluation, we do it as a mechanical performance. And there is something really very important, which is lack of continuous involvement of you, okay, in decisions, in research, in even designing these kinds of forms of discussion. So, and it's not only here. I mean, for example, number 3 is a result found in a study done in one of the universities in California. So they noticed that there's a very low representation of faculty members in regional accreditation. And why this is important, once we are not involved in the process of auditing, accreditation does not have to be really external accreditation, it might be even internal, the practice. Once we are not involved, and I say we, because everyone matters, we don't understand and we don't feel the value of it. And one of the most important thing, I think we need to educate ourselves. And I say, I'm kind of part of you. There is a lack of knowledge because of lack of involvement, and that really affects our interaction with the quality assurance systems. There are lots of things, and when I say lots of things, it's mainly the rationale behind the quality assurance system. We understand. I mean, how many of you we read very quick and very carefully the ISA document or the quality audit manuals? Okay, so these kind of things, I think we have to blame ourselves for a bit to make sure that we do, next time we do the evaluation, we do it with, for example, 10% efficiency, I would say, instead of doing it mainly mechanical, do it 20% efficiency. I'll understand then more. I will be given more information, and then maybe after 5 years, we will have much more efficiency in doing this. What is next? Why I'm talking about next? It's really, really very important. If we want to improve the process, we need to be part of it. We can't just ignore it. We can't say that it's not working and we don't know what is the problem. If we don't know what's the problem, we need to find the problem. And we can't just continue talking about this. We have to present data. We have to have valid discussion. And it's very important that next time when we talk about why we have concerns and why we have challenges as academics or as staff in universities, because we have data, we have research, we have consultation, we have other kind of examples in some universities. So the projection or the recommendation, suggestion of a new programs, a new tools, a new evaluation form should be research informed. So how can we make a difference? The first thing that we need to convince ourselves is that we can make a difference. It might be not really very kind of effective from the beginning, but we can make a difference. We have to make a difference because we are part, a very important part of the institution. We need to start doing empirical analysis. And when I say empirical analysis, it does not have to be related to quality assurance forms. If you have an idea, if you have a concern, if you have a very specific challenge, you need to really analyze it empirically. Because there is a power of data. There is kind of this era of evidence, era of data. So you can't just say that I'm not really very comfortable about this thing. Show me, prove it, okay? And we need to raise concerns. Once you feel that there is a problem, there is a gap, identify it. And this is part of raising concerns about it, okay? It is not meant to be perfect. We understand that. So we need to make sure that we work toward that. It's fit for purpose. So what are we doing actually? It seems like even as academics, how do we understand it's completely different? We need to discuss relevant studies, because if I mean, someone of you says that this idea of benchmarking, or this idea of imported system from other universities, from other countries, we can't only accept it or deny it because we have a feeling. No, we need to discuss it with relevant studies, relevant data, and these kinds of things. Again, I would say, when I say quality assurance authorities, it's us. We need to have a very good, and I say very positive communication with relevant quality assurance authority, because we are all working for the same objective. And the last one, we need to practice developing more effective, efficient quality assurance measure within us. So if we think that we understand what quality assurance should be, you should develop measures to show the system or to show the quality assurance officers or the department or the agency that we really understand it and we can do something about it, maybe much more efficient. It might not be the perfect, because remember that it is not perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect, but it might be 20% more efficient, 10% more efficient, or even 2% more efficient. So we need to identify the gaps. We need to know what are our problems. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. I know lots of you.
Yeah, Alia, I think Mr. Kamal has, he raised the hand, so maybe he has any doubts. Mr. Kamal Salah?
Yes, Mr. Kamal, please go ahead.
Your voice, please. Your voice. No, it's
yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Good afternoon. No, good morning. It's still 11. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Well, Alia is my office mate, so we actually discuss these issues daily. However, I just wanted to share some of the thoughts that I've just jotted down while listening to Alia, especially one of the points, because when we talk about quality assurance, actually, we need to talk about two levels. So we talk about quality development and quality control. And of course, I mean, needless to remind that of course, there are inputs, processes, and outputs when we talk about quality assurance. Just the last point that Alia was talking about, and she asked earlier, who's to blame? Well, I just wanted to share something with you. I think we need to be a little bit precise. I mean, do we want a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach? Now, we cannot blame staff, although I feel that in between the lines of or the words of what colleague Alia said, it seems, because she said there is a lack of knowledge and that leads to lack of involvement. That's fine. And then I feel that as if colleague Alia is blaming staff. But in order for staff to be involved, there should be a willingness. There should be, I would say, the management should have that as part of its vision, that staff should be involved, because that's part of ownership. In order for staff to be involved, they should be encouraged to, you know. So here I think it's a kind of culture that the management has to encourage. We might be, of course, many of the practices that we have are actually according to quality assurance requirements. We just need to highlight them. But people have to be aware of this quality assurance culture. We have to develop that. We have to control it. We have to make people feel that they belong to certain practices of not only developing certain practices, but also of controlling them. So they are part of it, and that will encourage them actually to be part and parcel of all the steps that we would like them to be part of. So if we want to improve the processes, we need to make people aware of the inputs, and they should be part of also drafting the outcomes. I mean, where are we heading to? I mean, they are the ones who are to decide what culture is to reign in the institution. They are also the ones who have to assess the previous practices and to come up with some improvement ideas. And when we make them the backbone of this quality assurance, development and control, I think things will move, the way quality assurance requires. So that's the only remark I just wanted to highlight. So in 2 words, although I forgot to just, draw attention to the issue of implementation, because when we talk about theory and practice, people might know what should be done, but when it comes to actual implementation, things go just the wrong way. So perhaps here, Alia, I know she's a researcher and she's she's very active in this. Perhaps she might come up. Of course, she asks the right questions. So perhaps we need to dwell a bit on that. Why do people know what should be done, but when it comes to the actual doing of things, they do it the wrong way? I'm not talking about admin people, definitely. I'm talking about all the people involved, all the stakeholders. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take too much time. Thanks, Alia. Thanks for this very informative presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Alia. Thanks, everyone. Actually, it's a more informative session today. We learn more. Maybe I'm in the field of QA. That's why I feel it more informative. So anyone want to say anything for this session, or Ms. Alia especially? Shukran, Abdullah. Abdullah, we should to give you a prize today, because
yes, it was
maybe more than 5 times. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much. Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fakhriya, for your organization. It was really very smooth dealing with HR. And I want to say that because I want to encourage everyone. So if you have something to share, it's really, really very professional to deal with HR.
Inshallah, thank you. Thanks everyone also for attendance. MashaAllah, more than 60, and they registered more than, I think, 70. So anyway, this session actually it's recorded. It will be uploaded in the training page. So anyone who want to get review or coming back to it, so it's uploaded there. And also you're going to receive the feedback about this session. Until you fill that feedback, you will be able to upload your certificate immediately in your PC. Okay, so be close from the training page. A lot of courses coming soon. And thank you again, Mrs. Alia. Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you very much, Fakhriya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely day, everyone.